Have you tried Music to Code By yet? Well, why not? Here's a comment Joe left on the website. This is also great music to mow by. I like listening to music while doing yard work to help the monotony of it seem less tedious. This past summer, I started listening to these tracks while doing yard work, and they worked great. I could let the music play in the background without focusing on it, and it seemed to help me concentrate on getting through my tasks. Thanks, Joe. And now you can download the entire 13-track collection. That's over 5.5 hours of music to code by for only $39. Check it out at musictocodeby.net. Welcome back to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin.
And this is Richard Campbell.
It's the last show, actually, that we're recording at ProgNet, although I think it was one of the first that's getting published.
Yeah,
right?
That's the way that works sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to covering topic areas and timing and what can go longer and shorter. There's content magic here, man. Don't look behind the curtain.
Yeah, right. So for that reason, we should probably, John Skeet's show, which was Tuesday's show.
Yeah.
Was the first one. And I'm not so sure we talked all that much about this conference.
No, I think we went straight into it was John.
Yeah. So this is ProgNet, Skills Matter.
Yep.
And it's
a training place. It's a very cool space. It's in the Shoreditch area of London. And
great speakers, obviously. Mark is here.
Epic lineup.
And Skeet is here, and Julie Lerman's here, and Clemens Vasters is here, and
John Galloway.
John Galloway.
Yeah.
A lot of great people here. So we're having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, they gave us this room that we're in.
The Backspace.
The Backspace room, and it is the Backspace. And we're sitting down with Mark Rendle, so it's going to be a great show.
Very excited.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But before we talk to Mark, let's do this thing called Better Know a Framework.
Awesome. All right, dude, what do you got?
Now, I know this is related, so Mark, you can join in here. First of all, Mark, you have a project on your GitHub. You have a GitHub repo called Confabulum.
Yes, I have a GitHub repo called pretty much everything.
Yeah, Confabulum, it says, currently a spike of an online presenter app. Create your presentation using HTML, run it in the browser, control it in other people's browsers. Audience can send questions or leave comments for you to view later. And is that still a thing?
It is still a thing. That's what I'm talking to you about today.
Yeah, but it's called something else now.
It's called Shtick now.
Shtick.
Because Confabulum, I couldn't spell it. So
is that something that you created, or you said it's a spike? What is it?
That was a spike, and now it's a proper thing.
Okay. And what's a spike isn't a fork of somebody else's project.
No, Spike is an experiment.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I think that's Pragmatic Programmer or something. It's like a tracer bullet sort of thing. So
what I did for a Better Know Framework today is, because I knew you were talking about something like this, I went and found something that competes with it. So let's talk about Reveal.js, shall we?
What is this?
This is another presentation framework for the browser. And Reveal.js. Or you can go to 1480.pwop.me, and that will link you to Reveal.js, but it's an HTML presentation framework, and it's essentially the same idea. You do I don't know if it's exactly the same. I'm sure you're going to tell me when we get into it what the differences are, but there's a nice little demo that you can walk through stuff, and it is on GitHub, and it's been around a while, at least a few years, 5 years or so at least. So that's it.
That's what you got.
Check it out. I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure Mark will disambiguate what Confabulum/shtick is all about.
Yes.
But you have to stick around and listen to it.
I love it.
Disambiguate.
Yes.
Better know English.
Yes. And that's what I got. Richard, who's talking to us?
Grabbed a comment off of show 1347, which we did back in September 2016 with one Mark Rendle.
Aha.
Talking about simple.data.core, which is a fun show.
Yeah.
You and your many
Not a
projects.
mollusk.
That's right.
Funny you should mention that because this is a comment from John R. who says, "Hey, thanks for your show and simple.data is very interesting. But looking at the GitHub page, it says the last post was in 2014 and that NuGet has the latest 2.0 alpha. So why was the show mentioning version 3?
Yeah.
And that is a good question.
It is. So version 3 is basically the .NET Core version.
Right.
So hence simple.data.core. I need to probably find a better way of calling it that. But yeah.
It's actually in different spots. It's simple.data.core.
Yeah.
And that was responded to by another listener from Mark Kenyon, which I appreciate. But John did mention that, wow, you really did register Not a Mollusk on
Yes, I did.
Yes, he did.
August 25th.
While we were recording the show.
Well,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
like, yeah, well, we really do that sort of thing.
Well, there's this little thing called the internet and bandwidth, and it's always on, and it's just easy to do.
So thank you, John. A .NET Rocks mug is on its way to you. And if you'd like a .NET Rocks mug, write a comment on the website at .NETRocks.com or via any of our social media, because we publish every show to Facebook and Google+. And if you comment there, we read it on the show, we'll send you a mug.
And definitely follow us on Twitter. He's at Rich Campbell. I'm at Carl Franklin. And send us a tweet. We won't rest until we hear from you.
Oh, God save me. That was not a very restful comment.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make a good presentation for Mark. And speaking of Mark, let's bring him on the show officially now. Mark Rendle is whatever you want him to be, just as long as he gets to play with computers all day. He's been programming professionally since the days of Wise terminals and VI and 2-hour compilation times, so you can just quit your complaining that Visual Studio is a bit slow now. These days, Mark mixes freelance work with teaching workshops and giving talks everywhere from big international conferences to local user groups. He's very excited about .NET Core and thinks everybody should run everything in Docker containers on general principle. And Mark's hobbies include extreme knitting. I feel like I'm watching Monty Python.
There you go.
Extreme knitting, particle physics, and lying about his hobbies.
It's okay. It's just the last one, really.
I lied. I don't lie about my hobbies. That was a lie.
I spent quite a long time trying to work out what extreme knitting would be. Is it just like ordinary knitting, but in extreme situations, or is it
knitting while in free fall?
Yeah. So jump out of a plane and see how much you can knit of a scarf before you open the parachute, or is it kind of going right? I'm going to knit the fourth bridge.
Yeah. I'm knitting with explosives.
Yeah, and if you knitted the fourth bridge, would you have to go back to the start and start knitting it from the beginning again before you'd finish? So
wait,
somebody register extremeknitting.com quickly.
Sorry, I already did. Before we start, you were telling me out in the hallway just a few minutes ago that you and Dylan are thinking about doing a British version of .NET Rocks. Should we float that idea balloon now?
Yeah, because basically, I mean, I was just... I listen to .NET Rocks only when I'm about to record with you guys. I never listen to it. I tend to listen to them while I'm out doing my training runs because I'm doing running now. That's not a lie. I really am. And it's just... the voiceovers and everything, it's very American.
Yes.
It's very accessible because American stuff is generally quite accessible. But I just thought, what would a British version of that sound like? And what would a British version of that be called? And so Dylan and I are thinking of doing our own kind of version called .NET is Rather Splendid. And I want to get you guys on as the first guests, and actually, Rich, you'll like it because you'll have to drink tea.
Yes,
you're not a coffee drinker, are you?
I am not. Never have.
And I would even drink a cup of tea to be on that show.
But tea with milk. And tea in a porcelain cup where the milk goes in first and then the tea, because otherwise you will crack the porcelain glaze.
Would you like one lump or two, Mr. Franklin?
Yes. So .NET. Yes, it is rather splendid, isn't it? Yes. What's your favourite thing about .NET? Is it the way that it's unassuming?
It is knitted rather extremely.
Yes,
actually.
Yes, .NET is rather splendid. Plus extreme knitting.
Too funny.
All right.
Too funny. All right, I guess we should talk about something real now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we talking about? It's actually social presentation. So you're going to talk about shtick.
I'm going to talk about shtick.
First of all, can we disambiguate reveal.js in shtick? Do you know anything about that?
So, the way this came about is I've got a lovely new Razer Blade laptop here.
Yeah, very fancy.
It is. It's really nice. And so now I'm running Windows 10, and I've got Docker for Windows installed, and I've got cores coming out of my ears and lots of memory and all this sort of stuff. But for a couple of years there, I was working on a slightly old laptop, and I wanted to do Docker things and .NET Core things, and I couldn't run Docker for Windows because the laptop couldn't cope with running a Hyper-V VM. So I just went, and installed Ubuntu as my primary operating system.
As you do.
So, which was great.
Okay.
But now I'm back on Windows 10, but while I was on Ubuntu, I was still running around doing talks and everything, and I couldn't run PowerPoint, and I couldn't run Keynote, and so I looked around for what people who are using Linux on the desktop, both of them, use for...
So I talked to both guys who run desktops.
And there are lots of browser-based presentation tools, and Reveal.js is probably the most famous one. And so Reveal.js is... you create an HTML page, and actually you can create an HTML page that has got Markdown in it, and then it will render the Markdown for you.
Nice.
But, and it's great, it's a fantastic presentation tool for developers.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because basically the way you start... The way you create a Reveal.js presentation is you go to GitHub and you clone the Reveal.js repository, and then you edit the index.html page in that cloned repository. And then to run your presentation, you drop to the command line and you do grunt serve. So that obviously means A, you're happy with the command line, B, you've got grunt installed, which then also, I think it might be npm serve now, but it means you have to have Node installed on your laptop to make this thing work.
It's good that they simplified it by using HTML.
It is, yeah.
I like that.
And so I thought I was looking for stuff to do with .NET Core and ASP.NET Core. And I'd done this spike a couple of years ago, the Confabulum thing that you mentioned, which had some other ideas about interaction while the presentation is being given with the people who are watching the presentation, which I've done various iterations on. The first one ever was, I think it was the first conference where I ever did a kind of, no, it's the second conference. Anyway, whatever. I was demonstrating Nancy, which was very new at the time. It's still a 0 point something, and the original Simple Data, which was, I think Simple Data is still 0 point something, but
Not a mollusk. Actually.
Not a mollusk. Well, not a mollusk is core, so I'm going to have to push it to NuGet, not a mollusk. That'll save the confusion, won't it? And I made an app called Heckle. Which basically, it didn't do anything with slides or anything like that, but it meant that people could type stuff into a presenter, and the presenter can have a page open, and it was doing a refresh every 5 seconds.
Wow.
And so people could heckle without having to shout stuff out.
I like that. Well, it's kind of a civilized British version of heckling.
It would have been a civilized British version if I'd had any kind of authentication, and you had to register, but it was just anonymous because I just threw it together the evening before the presentation.
So if it's anonymous, obviously people are going to post naughty things.
Yes. And someone did actually end up getting quite upset and walking away from the conference, which was not good.
No.
So now this version of it has social authentication. But no, so there's multiple things going on here. There's the fact that I wanted something to present on Linux laptops or Linux or Mac or whatever. There's the fact that to work with Reveal.js, you had to clone the repository and have Node installed. So one of the nice things with .NET Core is that you can do .NET publish -r wins -x64, and then you get a directory, and you can zip that directory up,
Take it in.
and give it to somebody else, and they could just take a fresh Windows laptop out of the wrapping and unzip that directory onto it, and it would run. They don't need .NET installed. They don't need any development tools installed. Any of that sort of stuff.
And I think I'm inferring correctly that Reveal.js doesn't have any of this interactive stuff, right?
That's it. So the other side of this is that I do talks at user groups, and in user groups, if somebody wants to ask a question, they stick their hand up, and I go yes, and they ask a question. I also do talks at big conferences like NDC. And at NDC, the Oslo rooms, they've got those big ranked seats, like
stadium
like a View Cinema, or an IMAX or something.
Right.
And there's guys who are sitting right up at the back who are kind of going, can you not see me putting my hand up? And you've got lights kind of right there.
The
So
answer is no, I cannot see
The
you.
answer is no, you can't see them. And you've also got the guys in the overflow room who maybe are watching you on like 1/9 of the screen they have in the overflow room.
Right.
And they might want to ask a question, and you're going, I can't see that question. And then you've also got people who are kind of sitting there with notebooks, and they're scribbling down the notes and all this sort of stuff, and they want to have those notes. And then sometimes people kind of take a photograph of their notes and tweet it, going, here are my notes from Mark's presentation. And you're kind of like, that's a weird thing to do, dude, but thank you. And you also have people who are kind of getting their phone out and taking photos of your slides.
Sure. Yeah.
So that they can tweet the pictures of your slides and stuff. And so there's all this stuff going on, and presentations desperately want to be social, but particularly the big ones, it's very difficult to make them social. It's very much just you talking at people.
Right.
And I would like it to be more of a conversation. And so what I want is an interactive thing where people can follow along, and they don't even have to necessarily be in the room.
Right.
They could be listening on a audio thing somewhere.
Yeah. Could be streamed.
Or the guy who's up at the back who can't raise his hand and get my attention could be on his phone, and he could type a question into his phone. And I have a brilliant thing, which I didn't put on here, but it's great. I don't know if you guys...
Mark is reaching into his
Mark
bag
is
of
reaching
tricks
into his bag.
right
Mark has
now.
got his laptop out and is running a presentation and is about to get you guys to do this. But
That's the sound of Velcro right there.
yeah, that's Velcro. So have you seen these?
It looks like a little tablet.
It's a Packed
looks like
Pixels.
Packed Pixel.
This is a monitor.
Okay.
It's a 4K monitor.
No, it's about what, 10 inches?
It's a 9.7 inch screen.
Okay.
It's 4K. And I have
Really?
I have a bracket that fits onto the laptop, and then I can just hook. You see, you got these
yeah.
little things on the back here.
Yeah.
$150 that cost.
No kidding.
No, seriously. And
What's it called again?
Packed Pixels.
You've got a link, Richard?
Yeah.
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 I'm ordering one right now.
Yeah, that's
You
me
can
too.
actually,
Yeah,
if you've
yeah.
got, if you can drive two display ports, which
Right.
if you've got one Thunderbolt 3, you can, because you can get one thing that splits one Thunderbolt 3 to two display ports. You can get a double pack, which has got two of them, and there's a bracket on either side, and so you basically have wings on your laptop screen.
Nice.
So anyway, when I'm doing presentations, I put that on there, and then on that monitor, if I'm using PowerPoint, it's handy for PowerPoint because you can have your presenter view on that. But when I'm using Shtick, then I can have my presenter view of what I'm doing, and as people ask questions, they pop up on my,
Great.
and that's
But
just a browser window.
nobody else sees it.
But nobody else sees
if
them.
they go naughty, you just ignore
That's
them.
it. And I can kind of go, no, mute that, or
get rid of
kick
that
that
guy.
guy off my presentation so he can't send any more questions because it's authenticated now. So yeah.
This, Richard, do you remember when SignalR was just getting hot and we were talking about how to do kind of interactive presentations? We thought about writing a website where we could, have this kind of interaction with the audience on their phones and that kind of thing. Yeah, he's basically doing it.
That's
so.
it.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here right now. We're talking. I have my Asus 169B external monitor, which is a USB monitor plugged into the sides. But it's just having another screen so that you have a place to put stuff. Essentially.
Yeah. But if you guys right now, if you have a browser window handy, if you go to shtick.io, shtik.io/live/Rendle, and you will be able to see my slide.
SCH.
No, just SHTIK.io. shtick.io.
Got it. Not the Yiddish
Not
spelling.
the Yiddish spelling, no.
Right. Shtick.net rocks. At Mark Rendle.
Okay. So now you've got the slide up now.
Yes, I do.
I am struggling with CSS at the moment. I'm not great at the front end stuff.
You and everybody else.
Yeah. So, right, in certain media query sizes, there is actually a bit that you'll see there that says, if you log in, then you can ask questions and take notes and stuff.
And we should also tell people who are listening that this URL is not live right now.
This URL, no, well, so for the people who are now listening to this podcast on the 28th of September, or, in 5 years' time, assuming I haven't run out of money and had to take it offline. So going to just live / the name of the presenter will take you straight to the presentation they did most recently, or the presentation they are doing now.
Okay.
But you give each presentation a unique slug. So you see it's redirected you to DNR-demo.
Yeah.
If your listeners go to shtick.io/live/rendle/DNR-demo, then they'll be able to see the slides that we are talking about now, and they can imagine that they're following on in real time, and this is a radio show.
Pretty cool,
All
Mark.
right, stop the car before you do that.
Yes, please.
Okay, now this is the bit that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Have you got the thing up on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I do... no, it's not on that. I'm on the watch-along view, not the other one. Right, so if I do that, that's moved me on to the next slide, and theoretically that's going to bounce around the internet and move you guys slightly. No? Has it not done that?
It has not done that.
So, yeah. And the thing is, I blame Damien Edwards and David Fowler for that.
I would too.
Okay.
It is blatantly their fault. Because
should I refresh?
If you have you got the little control buttons down at the bottom?
Yes.
So you could try clicking the kind of next button on there, that thing, and see if that does anything, or just hit refresh and.
I'll just hit refresh. Okay.
But yeah. It hasn't done it for me either.
All right. So we should say this is still in alpha.
Oh, this is not released at all. The thing's only online. So, okay, so that's done that. And then if I do that, no, it's not working.
Is it just SignalR?
That's the thing. They haven't released SignalR. They haven't released a kind of remotely stable version. So I've tried to write my own WebSockets code.
Oh my! What's wrong with you, sir?
Well, quite. The thing is, you just sort of think to yourself, well, if those two clowns can write it, how difficult can it be? And actually, it turns out quite difficult. Yeah.
But I get the idea, and the idea is that you can be on your phone, you can be on your laptop, you can be in the audience, and then you get to see more closely.
Exactly.
Or even if you're not in the same room.
Even if you're not in the same room. Also, right, so if you resize your browser window, actually what I do is I open the developer tools.
Okay.
So make the browser window narrower.
All right.
And yeah, there you go. You see,
there's the JavaScript error.
That is supposed to be there all the time.
But now that I open the developer tools, not only is it smaller, but I can
see the JavaScript error that's causing problem with WebSockets. Yeah.
Cannot read property query selector of null.
There you go, you see.
There.
Yeah. JavaScript. It's difficult.
What's for dinner?
But yeah, so you got that button there, which means you can sign into the site with Twitter, and then you create an account on the site.
Yeah, so that just so that you know what we're looking at here, it says sign in to create notes or ask questions.
Yeah.
Great.
And so once you've done that, then you can write your notes.
Shall I do it?
It's up to you.
Does it make sense for our listeners?
No, not really. Okay. Just trust me when I tell you that it will work. So at the moment it's just Twitter, but so the other reason the other sort of thing that's fun about this, we can dig more into the tech side of it in a bit. But so I'm currently people keep emailing me and saying, "Can you come and do one of your ASP.NET Core 2 presentations for us?"
Yeah.
So I'm doing like one a week at the moment. It feels like.
Wow.
And it's great because I'm turning up and I'm using this to do the talk.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and it seems to be based on kind of prevailing conditions and Hurricane Jose and whatever.
Yeah.
But once I get it a bit more stable, it'll be great. But I'm kind of showing people this is my presentation tool that I've created in ASP.NET Core 2. This is the very lightweight standalone runner, and then pizza and beer, and then this is the back-end code,
Very
and here's
cool.
how it does WebSockets and everything.
Mark, hold that thought just for a minute while we take a moment to hear from our sponsor.
This episode of .NET Rocks is made possible in part by Windows on the Google Cloud Platform.
What? Isn't this a .NET show?
Yeah, .NET runs on the Google Cloud Platform, man.
Everything in .NET?
You bet. All the .NET Core libraries and more, including 200 plus Google.com and cloud services. Hey, John Skeet's behind it. He's a genius.
The John Skeet? The Rescue the Princess John Skeet from Stack Overflow?
Yeah, the one and only. You can deploy your ASP.NET Windows apps to Compute Engine or your ASP.NET Core apps to App Engine or Container Engine, which is Google's hosted Kubernetes environment, and it runs like, well, Google.
But what about Visual Studio integration? Oh, it's there. I'm reading it now. You can use Visual Studio to manage your GCP resources and deploy your existing apps.
Yep, you can get stack driver logging, error reporting, and tracing support for .NET and .NET Core.
Also, there are PowerShell commandlets for GCP, which run on Windows and Linux.
And if you need help, there are a great set of partners to get workloads to GCP, including Capgemini, Nudezic, and Magenic.
So go to gcp.netrocks.com and get your free trial today.
.NET on Google. Who knew?
And you're listening to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin and Richard Campbell, and we're talking with Mark Rendle about shtick and social presentations.
Social presentations,
Yeah.
yes.
On a brand new
Interactive
version of
presentations.
.NET.
I have been at conferences where we've called like a Twitter handle or something out.
Yeah.
And then had a proctor in the room to sort of collect the questions.
So, yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's an expense and a complexity to have a proctor. Like you need a good proctor.
Sure. Yeah.
And sort of someone you can read cues off of as a presenter so that you can see them and say, hey, what do you got? And
Yeah. Yeah.
pull it up and keep going.
Well, and it also makes sense for presentations that are technical in nature, because then you can assume that everybody has, a phone with data.
Everyone
which
just got a-
you
Yeah.
can't assume
phone
that.
out.
There may be people who don't have phones or
Right.
have
That's it.
clamshell phones or something.
So yeah, the notes feature basically works, and so if you're just watching, once they release Signal R Alpha 1, I will just rip all my WebSockets code out and happily replace it with, because it turns out they're actually really, really smart guys
Yeah.
who write amazing code. So yeah, I will rip it out and I will get that side of it working. If you're just watching, then the slide will just magically move itself. But if
Right.
you've typed anything into either the notes text box or the question text box,
Right.
it'll kind of go, the next slide's available when you're done here. And with the notes, it's kind of auto. So it's got that thing where if you stop typing for a second, it just saves magically.
It
So
hangs
there's no
onto it. So you
save
can always go
button
back to your
afterwards.
notes.
Yeah.
But you also can't get ahead of the presenter, so you don't allow.
So you can't see the rest of the present.
Right.
As the presenter is going through the deck,
Yeah.
it's releasing the next
slide.
as he goes.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to have people that race to the
That's
end.
it. Just
Right,
race to the end
right.
and then go and see somebody else's talk. You don't want them to know that the talk is really, not that good until you
Until you
reveal
get to the
it
end.
by
Yeah.
saying the bad things. So yes, but then the plan is to also let people say, okay, these are my private notes. These are my public notes. These are my shared notes, and I'm going to share these with the world. And then you get this thing where with the combination and as the questions are asked, it's kind of like a mini presentation specific Stack Overflow where somebody asks a question and then you can give the answer talking, but then after the thing's finished, you can go in and type the answer. You can add the answer to the question.
Right.
Or
Right.
if somebody else is in the talk and
Has
sees
the
the
answer.
question,
Yeah.
Right.
you
They
can kind
respond.
of once the presenter's gone, there's a question, that's okay. That, I have moderated that now. Everybody can see it. And someone else, the presenter, I might go, I don't know how Kestrel actually does 1.2 million requests a second.
Yeah.
But then it turns out Ben Adams is sitting
He's
at the back of the room judging me, and he can.
Mark won't know the answer to that, but I do.
Yeah, it's to do with bit masking. That's as much as I know about how it's got something to do with bit masking. I don't know what bits are, but yeah. Did you know it was Programmers Day yesterday?
What is Programmers Day?
Programmers Day is the 256th day of the year, so it is the last day of the year that can be represented with a single byte.
Oh, that's great.
So it's Programmers Day.
I love it.
That was September the 13th, not September. Yeah, so not September the 27th.
2 to the 8th.
Wow.
So I'm kind of building this, and then the other thing about it is that the whole thing, the command line bit and all the back-end code, which is microservices and running in Docker and everything else, is open source.
Great.
So
where would we find this source?
you would find it at github.com/shtick, SHTIK. It's all on there, and it's open source for a variety of reasons. One, I really would like it if someone could help with this CSS stuff, because that's difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
And possibly also WebSockets. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the possibility of SignalR being .NET Core anytime soon?
So they're saying it's going to be released in some form with 2.1. So ASP.NET Core 2.1.
Well, that's good to know.
And we should be getting a preview of those by the end of 2017.
So you should probably just wait until that's done then, right?
Last week, from when we're recording this, Damien Edwards seemed to be suggesting that they were releasing the kind of Alpha 1 by the end of last week, and it hasn't popped up yet. You can get it off MyGet, but yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, when that does appear, I will just switch that in.
Yeah.
But no, making it open source means that I can talk about it in the talks and stuff, and I just want people to realize that ASP.NET Core, now we got 2.0 and .NET Core 2, and it's got binary formatters, and it's got system.drawing, and it's got all the stuff, and actually, it's ready. You can use it. And
sure, it's capable.
The majority of, certainly web API applications can be ported over fairly easily, but people need there to be code out there that they can look at. I learned most of the stuff while they were writing it by looking at the code in the ASP.NET organization on GitHub. How do I do unit tests? I'll go and look at how they do unit tests on the actual thing I'm using.
Right.
And so I want to put something out there that's a resource for developers. So if they want to go, how do I build a Docker container? How do I include SignalR in my project?
Right.
They can go, well, Mark does that thing, and I'll go and look at how he does it.
Cool.
And stuff. Which means that if people want to, and also there are going to be Docker images on the Docker registry.
Oh, great.
Which are public. So if you want to, you can run your own backend for it. So
this is so cool, because not only do we get this presentation tool, but along the way, if we haven't played with Docker or .NET Core 2, this is a perfect thing to get your feet wet with.
Yeah. Explore
it's a fun thing to play with.
Perfect.
So, the challenge here is making the presentation part about styling the slide.
Yeah.
What about code demos and things? I guess you just hop out.
Yeah, you hop out. And so longer term, if this became something I could spend more time on,
right,
then I would look at doing maybe a kind of specific Windows client and a specific Mac client, and then you could look at doing screen sharing
calls, yeah,
sort of recording code video on the fly, and that becomes part of the thing as well. One thing I've done...
Super easy to do surveys and things in this model.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You can do a vote screen,
right,
and actually, who would like to see this in a yes or a no,
and
then actually get people can...
So yesterday, I know the days are switched because the next show will be Dylan's show where we talk about this, but yesterday we participated in a sort of a thing that you were supposed to be here for, but it got held up for. It was a quiz comedy show, And you were replaced by a sock puppet,
Tony the Pony.
Tony the Pony. And at the end, Dylan did this screen where he had a live survey coming in from the audience.
Right.
And I was wondering if, was that you?
No.
Was that your
No,
stuff?
no, that's part of Skills Matter.
It really?
Yeah, that's Skills Matter have that as the...
And so we picked the winner because we never keep score on those things by actually having the attendees vote. And it was live. As the votes were coming in, you could see the lines move.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and it got quite anxious, actually.
Yeah.
The Canadian and British
Yeah.
team won.
Yeah, against the Americans.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
You guys were a mess at the moment.
Yes, but if we were judging it on how funny we were, I think we were funnier. Just saying.
Yeah, no.
Although you guys had Skeet, so that wasn't really fair.
Yeah, the British team had Skeet, and you did have the Canadians, so I was the smug one, really, because it's like you think there's the Americans with Trump, and the UK with Brexit, and the Canadians with Justin.
Yeah,
so
And the funny thing was, none of the Americans were Trump voters. So,
of course.
Yeah.
You never actually meet Trump voters. You just see them on Twitter.
Where they're Russian bots.
Yes, I think that's if you met them in person, you go, "Are you actually a Trump voter?" Yet.
I think all of the Trump voters just unsubscribed from .NET Rocks just now. Yeah.
Caused some trouble.
Bye, guys. Have
Sorry.
fun.
Sorry about that.
Don't shoot any hurricanes.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah, buddy.
Guess what time it is now?
It must be that happy time again.
Yeah. It's time to tell a shtick-inspired joke. Ready, Mark?
Go on then.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Must be Damien's fault.
That's a lost socket.
was
That's a
good.
I do apologize.
That's okay.
I couldn't help myself. It's actually time to give away a D-Experience subscription from DevX to one lucky member of the .NET Rocks fan club. Become a UI superhero with DevExpress UI controls and libraries, and deliver elegant .NET solutions that address customer needs today, and leverage your existing knowledge to build next-generation touch-enabled solutions for tomorrow. Whether it's an Office-inspired application or a data-centric analytics dashboard, DevExpress Universal ships with everything you'll need to build your best without limits or compromise. And check out their DevExtreme React Grid, built from the ground up to fully support all the cool features that come with React, like the virtual DOM and state controllers like Redux. It supports master detail, sorting, grouping, paging, and editing. And you can check it out and test it for free on GitHub. But learn more and download your free 30-day trial of DevExpress Universal at devexpress.com/superhero.
Well, all right, buddy. Who's our winner?
Today's winner is Bob J. Clark.
Congratulations, Bob.
Yes.
I'll clap for you, sir.
Golf clap for Bob. And Bob just won the D-Experience subscription, a big pile of awesome from our friends at DevExpress, just for being a member of the .NET Rocks fan club. And if you don't know what that is or how to join, go to .NETRocks.com, click on the big Get Free Stuff button, answer a few questions, and join the fan club. We have thousands of members all over the world, and every show we like to give away stuff from our sponsors, and every December we give away a $5,000 technology shopping spree to one lucky member of the fan club, but you got to sign up to win. Okay, Mark, you've done this before a couple of times.
I have.
If you got $5,000, you're going to go shopping. What are you going to buy?
I had a better thought. Can I start saving these up? And then
Keep doing shows.
in 2024, I could buy a Tesla Model 3. If I do one a year.
Yeah.
No, so I actually went, I did, because I knew what I was going to say and what I am going to say, but I did some research just to make sure that I was up to date with it and everything. I would buy a Form 2 3D printer from Formlabs.
Oh, yes, the Formlabs printer.
I have not heard of this.
So this is the stereolithography printer. So most 3D printers, you put a spool of plastic
PLA or ABS.
cable onto it, and it's like an inkjet printer,
Right.
and the things that you print, I mean, it's neat and everything, but you can see the pixels. It's it's like the dot matrix inkjet printer of 3D printing.
Plus, you need structural integrity. Often you end up being scaffolding so that bits don't fall off.
And the stuff is breakable, too. Let's face it. It's plastic.
So Formlabs and this is $3,500. These things,
Okay.
But I do have something to spend the leftover money on as well. $3,500, and instead of building it up from a heated base and printing a layer at a time, they use a laser to cure a resin a layer at a time, and it actually extrudes the thing. Why am I miming this on a podcast? It actually extrudes. So this thing, your 3D printed object rises out of a tub of resin,
Right.
like magic.
So the top comes out first, and then eventually the bottom.
Eventually the bottom comes out, and then you have this thing, and it's done with a very, very high, very precise laser. So the things that come out of it are basically smooth. So the quality is much better. It's much stronger because there are different resins that you can put in for different things.
Yeah, a variety of colors as well too. But yeah,
you can print clear. You can print
flexible materials.
Yeah,
like
that's
rubbery.
Yes. So if you need to print like a washer seal for your washing machine or something, you can
Something
do
that
that.
has a little give to it.
Yeah.
There's also ones that tolerate higher temperatures.
Yep.
Some that are just harder. Like there's a variety of resins. They're not cheap.
Is this Form Labs?
Form Labs,
Yeah. I've watched these guys for a while. The resins aren't cheap. Like they do cost money. But
there is the cheapest resin. So when you're mucking about or doing prototypes or whatever, you can use a resin that is relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I have any kind of month now. I did the Kickstarter for another 3D printer called Snapmaker, which is a modular one that can also be a CNC milling machine and stuff. But because you use the same model files for all these different things, so you could get your regular filament-based 3D printer, use that for prototyping, and then when you're ready to print the actual thing, then you switch over to the Form Labs and spend the money on the resin. So that's
pretty amazing.
Yeah,
that's $3,500. If you look on their website, they've got a coming soon section, and they've got a wash and a cure.
Right.
It's like an attachment thing.
Yeah.
Because with this resin, you have to wash it in a kind of isopropyl alcohol thing.
Now, do you have to wash it
off.
before you can use it, or is this just to clean it?
You have to wash it before you can use it.
Right.
It kind of
it still has the soft resin, the liquid resin
Yeah.
sort of attached to it to some degree.
Yes,
So you have to clean it up.
So it gets the drips off, and then you have a curing chamber which hardens it completely and makes it solid. And so those are come to about $1,500 if you. I think I'd have $100 left over to spend on resin,
Nice.
which would probably be enough to make a 20-sided dice.
This video also shows them printing clear stuff.
Yeah, if you can print clear. They have,
Which is nice.
They have materials that come out shiny and materials that come out matte.
Right.
It's just, it is effectively, if the filament-based 3D printers are the inkjets, then Form Labs, that's the laser jet.
It's a laser.
And it honestly looks as sophisticated as a printer.
Yeah.
Like you put in a cartridge, you don't have to do any kind of crazy resin things.
And I mean, I'm kind of going, if I had $5,000, I'd buy one because it is $3,500, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But that is producing things that 5 years ago you would have had to spend $100,000 on a proper industrial, the kind of thing that businesses own for stuff.
I wonder how
It's
strong
amazing.
this stuff really is. Like, could you use it for things that bear weight or have stresses, moving parts, that kind of thing?
It's all based on the material. So the resins that you use, and obviously, if you design your thing so it's made of triangles, it'll be more rigid than anything else. Sure. Oh, but the other thing with this, and the thing that you can do with resin that you can't do with filament, is print Lego bricks. Because filament isn't high enough resolution to print Lego bricks, but the Form Labs thing, it's because they're not. It's legal to print Lego bricks. It used to be illegal until very recently, but now the patents have expired and everything, which is why you can get things that say they're compatible with Lego. But yeah, so if you get that, because the people who make the Lego Marvel superheroes or Star Wars or whatever, they cheat. They kind of go, I don't know how to make this bit. We'll just injection mold the Millennium Falcon's cockpit. And so you could go, right, I don't know how to make that bit. I'm just going to Form Labs print this custom bit of Lego so I can build the model I want to build. So yeah.
Yeah, the tough resin is they say it simulates ABS.
Which is
makes
what?
Which is a kind of, it's the plastic that you use for sewage pipe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty tough
really?
stuff.
It's quite tough stuff. Yeah.
PVC.
The ABS. PVC is different.
Okay.
PVC is the white, ABS is the black.
But is it the same strength?
They are different. The ABS actually has a bit more give to it. It's easier to
Okay.
cut and manipulate, but it is durable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, that's what I get.
And with the rest of it, would you buy more resin cartridges?
I think I'd have $100 left over after getting the wash and cure things.
So that will get you half of a resin cartridge.
That would get me half of a resin cartridge. So basically, what I'll do is I won't take it out of the box, and then I'll come back on next year,
Right.
and we'll do another show, and you'll say, "What would you spend $5,000 on?" And I'll go, "Resin."
A lot of resin.
That's
There
great.
is, of course, there's also the third party. Like one of the things you do with the prototyping is once you get the prototype where you want to, then you send it out.
Well, yeah, you can do that.
You can have it made with a laser sinter machine, which is $200,000,
Yes.
and they'll make it out of aluminum or titanium for you if you want to spend a lot of money on it.
But you should check out the Snap Maker as well, which is the thing that was on
beautiful.
Kickstarter, which is modular.
Snap make.
Snap Maker.
Yeah, it's
so
another way to make another kind of 3D printer.
So it's filament based 3D printer, but it is modular, and so you buy the kind of basic unit, but then you can say, I want longer struts to support the thing.
right. I want to be a little taller. I want to be a little wider. I want to
print
do
something
two
that's
color.
6 feet tall.
You know, it's interesting. I found the 3D printer phase and mania sort of ebbed a little bit. So it's nice to see some technological advances in this price range.
Yeah.
Which hasn't really happened in a while.
Yeah, so the Snap Maker, I got it on Kickstarter. I think it was $179.
Right.
Plus like $50 shipping to the UK.
Wow.
But yeah, it's definitely getting to the point of accessible. I'm just really excited about where it's going to be in 10 years' time.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. The pre-order price now is $500.
Yeah.
For the Snap Maker.
All right, so what else can we talk about shtick? Did you learn anything about .NET Core along the way that you didn't know before?
So I used it. It was the first full end-to-end thing I wrote in ASP.NET Core 2.
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier to do that. The command line side of it, the little standalone application, it doesn't use MVC, so it's not using controllers and views, and there's no Razor in there.
Right. It's just a REST endpoint.
So it uses the new routing library, which works like Express.js sort of thing. So you say map get and the URL, and then you have a callback.
It's an attribute.
An action. No, it's so you have a router, and you say router.mapget theme.css.
It's
and
code
then return stuff. So it's in code. So
Okay.
it looks quite a bit like Nancy.
Yeah, all right.
But it's built into MVC. So by using that, it means I don't have to include the Razor libraries. It means I don't have to include a whole bunch of the other stuff that goes along with Razor.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, Roslyn.
Right.
So
Little thing.
You publish one of these things with views in it, and it's quite a big publication. And like I say, I want to do this where I do a publish for Linux, that's something that's really nice as well. Right, I need to multi-thread. Can I say two things at the same time? No. So
you can try.
I want to be able to publish this and then put it in a zip file and have it. And so it would be nice.
It'd be nice if you said it in parallel. That means every other word from a different sentence.
Yeah, no. there's not enough caffeine in the world.
Yeah. That's a threading problem.
Yeah. It would be nice.
Yes. No, so I want it. It would be nice if that download, when they unzipped it, was less than 100 megabytes.
Hopefully less than that. Yeah.
And so one of the things that ASP.NET Core 2 has, and .NET Core 2, it's kind of in preview at the moment. You have to install a NuGet package, and then you have to add a target to your CS proj file, but it's this IL linker thing. And it looks at your actual application. So you say, I'm referencing Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.all, which is a meta package, which is everything: entity framework, core, identity, authorization, security, MVC, Razor, the whole deal.
Right.
Okay. This IL link thing looks at your actual assembly, the thing that's being produced when you build the CSproj file, and goes, right, well, what do you actually use? So you use routing, and you use configuration, and you use options, and you use logging, but you're not using Razor, you're not using MVC, you're not using the controller classes. So we'll when we do the publish, we'll leave all those aside. And so you can actually it's in very, very early preview at the moment, but right now, it saves about half the publish size.
Wow.
So it goes from over 100 megabytes to around 60 or 70.
That's nice.
Yeah,
which is
that's
very
great.
nice. And that's just doing the kind of first phase, which is which of these assemblies are you not using?
Right.
The plan, as they kind of move it ahead, is that this kind of fuses with IL merge. So, and if people don't know what IL merge is, it's a thing that takes multiple .NET assemblies and turns them into one .NET assembly.
Yes.
So if you've got an XE but 50 DLLs, then you can just turn that into one really big XE. So combine that with this IL link thing, which is looking at your code and working out what you're using, and it can do that within the assemblies as well. So it can say, right, so you've got system.xml that you're using this bit of it because you're loading an XML document, but you're not using any of the XPath stuff.
Right.
So
you can leave it out.
We'll just eliminate that from the code.
Yeah.
So you get that, and then it's trimmed it down. So you only have, even down to the base class library layer, if you're not using system.io, then it's not there.
It's not going to load it.
If you're not using file stream.
It's still about keeping a thing down to a reasonable size, as well as then making it portable where you want it to go.
That's it. So I got to play with that, and that's, like I say, that's very early. It's still got the dash preview tag on it if you install it, but it does work, and it makes a difference. The other thing that I learned, which is also very, very cool, talking about wanting this to be accessible to Mac people and Linux people, is it doesn't matter what machine you're on. So I'm on a Windows 10 machine.
Yep.
I can say .NET publish -r Linux x64, and it will produce a Linux build with the Linux native binaries, the .so files and everything. And I can do that for Mac. And the really cool thing, I haven't actually tried this yet, but I want to try it. .NET publish -r Linux-ARM32. And it will actually produce something that you can copy onto a Raspberry Pi. And it will run.
Running presentations from a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, right.
Definitely. I'm still contemplating the social presentation itself.
Yes.
Just this idea of, it's not so much a presentation now. I mean, it's much more interactive. I think about stuff like if I was going to do a presentation around geek outs, where you never know, you're going to take a subject like nuclear power and see where people want to go.
Yeah.
How deeply do I need to explain this? And do I give people, points where actually when I was looking at Reveal, they showed the sort of side scrolling approach.
Yes.
But to be able to, and then a down scroll approach. So it's like, here's the top level, the entire path of the conversation.
Yeah.
Do we want to go deeper into these different pieces? And you could have sort of a voting mechanism or a recommendation mechanism. I've definitely built decks. Remember that we did that one, I think it was Nebraska Code Camp, where over lunchtime, I was just fielding different geek out topics. And when someone asked a hard question on it, I just grabbed the slides for that and jumped there.
Yeah.
So just that ability to, here's this 300 slide deck or something that's hours and hours and hours to do the whole thing. And you can just move around the pieces that people care about.
A choose your own presentation.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that's, yeah.
I think it's a battle when you're a real, an experienced person in an area. You have a tough time gauging what the audience knows and doesn't know. How deep do we go?
Oh,
How do I did this all the time with performance tuning, like making websites go fast.
Yeah.
Because a large amount of the audience, while interested in this subject, had never done it. And so as soon as you went deep on something, you lost a bunch of the audience.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you had a room full of folks that had done it before and are like, yeah, we understand the fundamentals. Explain more about this problem.
Yeah.
And so just being able to get the room to feed that to you, although you still have to make that judgment call.
But, I do these running around to user groups talking about ASP.NET Core 2.
Right.
And obviously that's a huge thing. And so it's a very, very kind of, okay, so this is what's new in Entity Framework. This is what's new in MVC. There's some cool stuff. These are the bits I like. I could do an hour on any one of those bits.
Sure.
And so having people be able to say, okay, drill more into that, or to be able to provide additional content through the site. and links, and if you like it, well, here's a link to a video of me talking more about this, and that sort of thing.
I think this tool works really well in combination with a live stream, because then you don't have to share anything. You can basically have a live presentation that can be interactive at the same time with people anywhere in the world.
And you do have some control over it too. It's not like you're just handing out the deck to everybody.
Yeah, that's it. And then the final thing that I'm doing, and I tested this at the weekend when I was supposed to be doing something else, so don't tell my wife. I'm going to take the kids out and you clean the washing machine thing. And did you do it?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, let's say I did. Let's see if you noticed
just
that
say
I
I
didn't
did.
do
I
that.
didn't write code. I didn't write code.
Yeah, that's it.
I swear.
So it's still this thing. If I say to people, "Hey, you can do social presentations," awesome. How do I get my PowerPoint slides up? How do I use my PowerPoint theme and all this other stuff? And so I thought, well, really, the thing that you've got down here locally isn't doing very much at all.
Yeah.
It's rendering Markdown, and it's displaying it for me, and then I've got next and previous buttons and WebSockets that don't work. So I booted up Visual Studio 2017, and I created a PowerPoint plugin for PowerPoint to work on 2013 and 2016. And I hooked into the event handlers that PowerPoint gives you. And it turns out there's one of those that gets triggered either when you go to the next slide, but also when you press when people have a slide that reveals itself like a bullet point at a time.
Yeah.
And so you get one of those just as the animation starts, and then another one when the animation finishes.
Nice.
Right? And so I can just build a plugin for Outlook. It'll add a plugin for PowerPoint. It'll add a tab to the ribbon at the top, and you'll be able to put in the site you want to do it through and so forth. And then every time the slide changes, every time an animation finishes, there's another API in there where you can just say, "Give me a JPEG of what the slide, of what the thing looks like at the moment," and then we just push
it up,
push these JPEGs up one at a time to the Shtick website, and so people can use So if it's built into PowerPoint, there's really no reason for people not to use it. I'm not saying you have to use my tool. I'm not saying you have to learn Markdown. I'm just going, people can watch this. And then, even if you're sat all around a conference room with people sitting with their laptops around a conference room, and you're projecting sales for the next quarter up at the end there, you can have the people sitting in the conference room going blah, blah, blah,
and taking notes
on there.
Even though you're authenticating the clients, can you still create anonymous data? Like, can you do anonymous surveys so that you don't even know
who it is?
I would definitely, yes. Yeah. For the people who are making notes, if they mark their notes as private, those are proper private. The speaker won't be able to see them either. The speaker can obviously see the questions, and they can see any public notes that were written and so forth. But it would definitely, you could put a feedback thing in that you didn't have to be logged in for, and just some sort of cookie that says the only way you're going to be able to vote twice for this presentation is if you remap your MAC address.
Something tells me you could actually do that. I don't know.
I've watched people do it at Heathrow Airport.
To get another
once every
hour.
30 minutes to get another 30 minutes of free Wi-Fi.
Very doable.
You know who you are.
Yes, we do. Heck, I'm just thinking, especially with the remote stuff, being able to do translations. To have someone following along with the slide deck in their own language. There's a lot of power here to have that socket effect, distributed, or someone visually impaired having a tough time looking at the big screen to be able to have a screen right by them. And with their zooming and controlling capability so that they can see the way they need to be able to see.
And there are cognitive APIs out there from not just Microsoft, but Google and everything else that will do real-time speech translation.
And I'm really hoping that, when I talk to people about this, lots of people have got lots of great ideas about things it could do, ways it could go. It's on GitHub. It's open source. It's MIT licensed if you want to run your own shtick.io.
It's as generous as it gets for regular licensing.
I'm really hoping that people will see it and go, that would be awesome if hang on a minute, I can fork it and make it do it.
I can do that.
So, and if you're looking, that it's going to be a while before everybody in the world is able to use all this amazing new stuff that Microsoft are doing in their day job.
Sure.
It can be a bit daunting trying to think of something to do with it in your spare time, but I'm hoping that I've written like reasonably clear code, and there's nothing that complicated in there at the moment.
Right.
Clone it, fork it, dive in, build something, send me pull requests,
Yeah.
send me CSS that works. That would be nice. GitHub.com/stick.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you've done it again.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
cool.
Very, very cool.
I hope so.
And I can't wait to see it in, a couple of months and after a few people have gotten their teeth into it. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always lots of fun.
It's been splendid.
Splendid.
Rather splendid.
Now let's record that.
Yes. Splendid. And we'll see you next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Pwop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Got transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a